Alright, let's talk about the story that has the internet in absolute meltdown right now. Because what if I told you this wasn't just another celebrity breakup? What if I told you a private diary, allegedly written years ago, just resurfaced at the worst possible time, and now it's being linked to accusations that could completely change how people see this entire relationship? Yeah, we're talking about Megan Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson, and things just went from quiet split to full-blown internet investigation overnight. A cheating scandal? Maybe. Old habits exposed? Possibly. Or is this just perfectly timed chaos designed to blow everything up? Because according to what's circulating online right now, this diary doesn't just hint at behavior, it documents a mindset. So the real question is, did Megan just uncover something shocking, or did the internet dig up a past Klay thought was buried forever? So here's where things start getting messy. Because up until this point, most people thought this was just another celebrity breakup. You know the usual, two high-profile names, different lifestyles, things don't work out, they go their separate ways. End of story, right? Wrong. Because the moment Megan Thee Stallion stepped forward and made it clear that trust, loyalty, and respect had been broken, the entire narrative shifted. This wasn't just a quiet split anymore. This was something deeper. Something that hinted at betrayal. And then, out of nowhere, the internet did what it does best. It started digging. Old posts, old connections, old rumors. And then suddenly, this so-called diary from years ago begins circulating again. Not just a rumor this time, screenshots, alleged excerpts, people claiming they've seen the full pages. And let me tell you, the way it's being described, it's not helping Klay's case at all. Because according to what's being shared, this wasn't just random thoughts. This was someone allegedly writing in detail about their lifestyle, their mindset, and let's just say their approach to relationships wasn't exactly traditional. Now pause for a second. Because if even a fraction of this is true, then this isn't just about what happened recently. This becomes a pattern. And patterns? Oh, the internet loves patterns. Suddenly people aren't just asking, did he cheat? They're asking, has he always been like this? And that's where things get dangerous. Because once a narrative like that starts building, it spreads fast. Fans started connecting dots that may or may not even exist. Old interviews are being reanalyzed. Clips are being reposted. Moments that once seemed harmless, now they're being viewed through a completely different lens. And Megan? She didn't have to say much more. Her initial statements were enough to light the fire. The tone, the wording, the timing, it all suggested that whatever happened behind closed doors, it wasn't small. Now here's the part that really has people talking. Multiple social media users started claiming that during the relationship, things weren't as perfect as they looked. That behind the scenes, there were mood swings, tension, and moments where Megan was allegedly holding things together, while Klay was, well, moving differently. Again, none of this officially confirmed. But in the court of public opinion, that barely matters. Because once people feel like they've found a story that makes sense, they run with it. And now, instead of a breakup, we've got a full-blown narrative forming. A high-profile athlete, a global superstar, a relationship that looked solid on the outside, and cracks that may have been there the whole time. But here's the twist. If this diary really is from years ago, and if it really reflects his mindset back then the real question becomes, did Megan walk into something she didn't fully know? Or did something happen recently that made everything from the past suddenly matter again? Because trust me, this is only the beginning. And just when you thought this situation couldn't get any messier, that's when the internet decided to pour gasoline on the fire. Because now, it's not just about a diary anymore. Oh no, now we've got alleged screenshots, insider leaks, and anonymous sources popping up out of nowhere, all claiming they know what really went down behind the scenes. And you already know how this goes. The more chaotic the story gets, the more people start choosing sides. Some users online are saying this whole thing lines up a little too perfectly. They're pointing to the timing, the breakup happens, emotions are high, and suddenly this old diary resurfaces like it was waiting for the perfect moment to explode. Coincidence? Maybe. Calculated? Some people definitely think so. But then, there's another layer. Because whispers started circulating that during the relationship, Klay wasn't exactly low profile. According to these so-called sources, there were moments where he was allegedly seen getting a little too comfortable in situations that didn't look very relationship-friendly. No hard proof. No confirmed receipts. But that didn't stop the internet from running wild with it. And then came the names. Yeah, this is where it always gets messy. At one point, people started dragging other women into the situation, claiming there were secret interactions, private messages, even rumors about close friends lists and things that were never meant to be public. One name trends, then another, and suddenly it turns into a guessing game of who was involved. Most of those claims? Quickly denied. But here's the thing about the internet. A denial doesn't travel nearly as fast as an accusation. So even when certain individuals came out and said, "This has nothing to do with me," the damage was already done. Their names were already attached to the narrative, whether they liked it or not. Meanwhile, reactions from public figures started pouring in. Some people openly supported Klay, saying things like, "We don't know the full story," or suggesting there might be more happening behind the scenes that hasn't come out yet. Others? They weren't holding back at all. They called out the behavior, questioned the decisions, and straight up said that if even half of these allegations are true, then this isn't just messy, it's reckless. And then you've got the commentators who turned the whole situation into entertainment. Jokes, memes, sarcasm, think pieces. 1 minute people are analyzing relationship dynamics. The next minute they're making viral clips, turning the entire situation into a running joke. But underneath all of that noise, there's still one question nobody can seem to answer. What actually happened? Because right now we've got an old diary that may or may not reflect reality, allegations with no solid confirmation, multiple people dragged into the story, and a breakup that clearly didn't end on good terms. And somehow, every new detail just makes things more confusing. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Because while the internet is busy arguing, joking, and speculating, there are quiet rumors starting to build about what's happening behind the scenes. Conversations about assets, property, decisions that were made during the relationship that now might come with consequences. And if even a fraction of those whispers are true, then this situation isn't just emotional anymore. It's about to get complicated on a whole different level. And this, right here, is where the situation stops being just drama and starts feeling like something a whole lot bigger. Because while everyone online is busy arguing over screenshots, diary pages, and who said what, there are quiet reports suggesting that behind closed doors, things might be getting seriously complicated. We're talking about assets. We're talking about shared spaces. We're talking about decisions made when everything seemed solid that now have to be undone piece by piece. And suddenly, this doesn't look like a simple breakup anymore. It looks like a situation where two people built something real and now have to figure out how to separate it without everything turning into a complete disaster. Now here's where it gets interesting. There are whispers, again, not officially confirmed, that certain things in this relationship were never as 50-50 as they appeared. That some assets may have been kept under one name. That certain protections were already in place before things fell apart. If that's true, then somebody was either very careful or very prepared. And the internet is split right down the middle on that idea. Some people are saying that's smart. That's what you do when you're dealing with high stakes. Others are looking at it like, wait a minute, were you planning for the worst the whole time? Because think about it. If you're fully invested in a relationship, are you also quietly preparing your exit strategy? That question alone has people going in circles. And then, there's the financial angle. Rumors floating around about expensive gifts, shared property, and what happens to all of that after a breakup like this. Who keeps what? Who has what? And more importantly, what was actually promised versus what was just assumed. Some claims even go as far as suggesting there could be disagreements over damages, responsibilities, and who's accountable for what happened during the relationship. Again, nothing officially confirmed. But at this point, does that even slow the story down? Not at all. Because the narrative has already taken on a life of its own. Now it's not just, did he cheat? It's, what really happened behind the scenes? Who knew what, and when, and how much of this was hidden until it couldn't be hidden anymore. And through all of this, Megan's response stands out the most. Because instead of feeding every rumor, instead of going back and forth online, she made one thing clear. She's stepping away. No chaos. No dragging it out publicly. Just a firm line drawn where things crossed into disrespect. And whether people agree with her or not, that decision shifted how a lot of this is being viewed. Because now the focus isn't just on the allegations. It's on the aftermath. On how someone handles being at the center of a storm like this, while the entire internet is watching, judging, speculating. And let's be real for a second. Stories like this don't just disappear. They evolve. More leaks could drop. More people could speak up. Or everything could suddenly go quiet, which, somehow, always makes things feel even more suspicious. So now we're left with a situation that feels unfinished. Loose ends everywhere. Questions with no clear answers. And a narrative that could flip again at any moment. Because if there's one thing we've learned from situations like this, it's that what you see at the surface is rarely the full story. And now the story comes back to you. Because at this point, there's only one real question left. What do you actually believe is going on here? Is this really a case of old habits catching up at the worst possible time? Or is the internet taking fragments, rumors, and half-truths and turning them into something way bigger than it actually is? Because let's be honest, we've seen this before. One leak turns into 10 theories. One accusation turns into a full-blown narrative. And before you know it, the line between fact and fiction completely blurred. So where do you stand? Do you think this diary situation exposed something real? Or do you think the timing is just way too convenient? And more importantly, is this story actually over, or are we just at the beginning of something even bigger? Because if history has taught us anything, it's this. When things go quiet, that's usually when the next twist is getting ready to drop. So don't go anywhere. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading everything. Hit that like button if you want more breakdowns like this. And if you haven't already, subscribe to stay locked in with every update, every twist, and every story the internet doesn't want you to ignore. This situation? Yeah, it's far from finished.